conferences to increase their the number of papers they have written, but nobody reads. And you can also have talk-only talks. Okay, so you just talk, nobody listens. And that's what I think most of the seminar presentations are meant to be. So people tend to have nice, gentle, womanly, gentlemanly agreements that you should not ask me questions, I won't ask you questions. And but my hope is that we will get out of that and we will actually read the same paper, and then everybody will take a question each other's understanding. And then there are some of us, who actually, obviously, including myself, who know more about the area around it, and so we might be able to.
So the paper would be, chosen after discussion between the classes, or it would be given by you?
I agree. Okay, so if there are papers that in fact, this is a very reasonable question in a particular way. If there are papers that you wish we would consider reading, you're welcome to send them to me. But then I will act as a filter and decide whether it will fit in the way I'm trying to run this particular system. Okay, but it's not, popularity contest. Let's do it. Here are the 6-page paper, the 60-page paper. How many of you want to read a 6-page paper? Any other questions? Okay. Okay, so go to some of this background. And the second, how many of you have listened, took the time to listen to some link that I sent about a talk related to human-aware AI? Okay, so for those of you, thank you for doing it. First of all, that increases my YouTube count. I think that means really know. But some of this stuff might be slight, repetition for you. But I will, if you have questions from that, say we can review that. But since it's a first class, I'm going to actually do some of the pieces again. This stuff we all know. It's too big. As you said, many of you have taken it because it's AI. It's like, the strange part is obviously you're all young. For those of us who've been working in the area, it's kind of crazy that we went from people sort of sighing and wincing that poor guy working in AI to, oh my God, can we get into AI? Everybody in all departments apparently want to work in AI. So we have gone to that level, and obviously popular perceptions of AI have pretty much jumped the shot, right? So this stuff is kind of interesting for us because one interesting question is when you say human aware, again it's an English word and you have large amount of ambiguity. You will talk about what are the capabilities that a system needs to be able to be aware of humans, for example. But one of which at the minimum is don't run them over, presumably, okay? And don't kill them off, for example. Okay. And in fact, we will talk about the many variations of human-aware-ish AI that's going on. It's like a big deal right now in some areas, certain groups, and one of which is human-compatible AI that we'll talk about later. And it's mainly, let's maybe not kill the humans. Okay, forget about working with them, but at least let's not get a super intelligence that essentially is the whole humanity. That's a way of looking at it. Okay. So that's safety considerations. I'm not really going to spend as much time on the safety considerations, but that will lead to a lot of people being extremely worried about AI in some strange ways. So I'm doing much more mundane stuff, basically systems helping people in even mundane situations. Okay. So it's like whenever a human being can be helping you, you can have an AI system help you. Okay. And then you can try to sit down right now, take a 5-minute break and say, what are all the ways humans help me? And then take another 55-minute break and write, what are all the ways they annoy me? Which is a much bigger list. But think in terms of the ways in which humans help you, the ways in which you interact with them. And all of those are fair game in terms of AI systems doing those things. Okay. Unfortunately, that thing is not particularly sexy. Basically, it's so much easier to get onto New York Times front page by saying Facebook is about to, DeepMind is about to create AI that's going to take over the world and kill everybody. There's a possibility. So then you get it right. So that sort of explains to some extent why this thing doesn't take as much news cycles. But one thing that I want you to understand from a technical perspective actually is why did people not worry about AI systems working with humans from the beginning? Okay. Again, how many of you, by the way, have done an intro to AI course? That's okay. So that's not actually, that's about half. Can you again raise your hands? Okay. Okay, so the people who have no background in AI, you know approximately that there are all these other people who actually have recently put AI course. So one thing that you will see, and we'll actually talk about intelligent agent architecture in a minute, is essentially AI systems particularly only cared about doing everything that humans do, but doing them better than the humans. Now, one thing that humans do is actually getting along with other humans, but somehow that's never considered the sexy thing. Beating people in chess, beating people in poker, beating people in Go. These are what we basically used as our benchmarks for progress. Anytime we do that, that's like interesting. Okay. Again, partly it's because there are crisply defined challenges. There could be precision versus recall. Is this a very crisply defined challenge to win Go? Yes, it is. But is it extremely useful? How often do you need, oh my God, I wish if I had a computer which can win this Go game for me. Very little. Okay. But we do this much more, and then again, as I said, there are robots on Mars which are hanging around there mostly because there are no humans, and that makes them really happy. Okay. And then I basically remember this John Lennon song that you want to help humanity. It's the people you can't stand. Somehow that's approximately the way it works in terms of the work in AI itself. And in putting this in perspective, I have to admit that I myself am a sort of a new convert, relatively new convert, into kind of realizing that, oh, I'm a human, maybe we should have my AI systems work with humans. Okay, I kind of used to think pretty much this is the way to go. Who cares about humans? That's the wishy-washy stuff. So in fact, when to put this in perspective, when I was a grad student, many centuries ago in University of Maryland, College Park, there used to be this guy called Ben Schneiderman. How many of you have heard the name Ben Schneiderman? Okay, how many of you actually done human-computer interaction courses? Okay, so human-computer interaction as a field was started by him, more or less. He's one of the main guys. So, but when I was a grad student, I remember he would be the guy that will arrange departmental seminars and get the coffee and stuff. Okay, nobody really cared about computer interaction. Okay, because computers are serious engineering. Where are all these humans coming into the picture? Okay, obviously that changed a whole lot. Okay, I mean, how many HCI courses have I taken? 0. Okay, of course, as I say, there is nothing like the proselytizing zeal of the newly converted, right? So I'm a newly converted guy trying to proselytize you to take you to my courses. But, okay, so one of the interesting questions is, why aren't we looking at the systems directly working with humans? And as to what does that mean, I will go into details today, okay? But let me ask, actually, by the way, Gabe's Hell. How many people know what Gabe's Hell is? Okay, good. This is actually an interesting thing. There's a later slide. The one place where human-aware AI was there in space is Hollywood. Imagine making a movie on AI where the machine, it's like, how many of you have seen that Go movie? Did you see that movie? What's the name of the movie? What?
Space or the space?
No, not Space Odyssey, not this one. The most recent one, the one where AlphaGo. AlphaGo movie. How many of you have seen AlphaGo movie? Okay, you should see these things. But anyway, so AlphaGo, it's a movie made on how AlphaGo won, beat the humans. You would assume that AlphaGo, the movie, as a good, honest computer science person, you would say they will show where the GitHub repository is and how many times. Nothing of that kind. It's a whole bunch of people with happy faces, sad faces, and looking at the computer like as if something is going to happen or something already happened. As you know, I mean, unfortunately, computers don't go to movies. They don't buy tickets. And if you know a species that's more narcissistic than humans, tell me. Okay, we only like ourselves. Okay, and so in some sense, it's not at all surprising that all Hollywood depictions of AI are AI systems that are ultra humanoid. They could be quite sinister, like Hal in Dave, and Hal in Dave. They could be kind of like, sort of inscrutable, like I guess the various Men in Black and various other movies. And they could be like the movie Her, where essentially it's like almost human interaction. Okay, so if you see Hollywood movies, you would be thinking that that's actually what is being done in AI. It's all stuff done. And so imagine that you're an outsider into AI. You see a whole bunch of movies on AI, and you also read a whole bunch of tech articles on AI. You put two and two together and say, it's all together right now, it's all one. But clearly, obviously, that's not the case. In the technical AI, we haven't particularly cared about actually handling the challenges involved in AI systems working with humans. Okay, that's about further. So why wasn't that happening? I was thinking about this in one expectation, and sort of thinking about it from my own point of view, because I'm old enough that I've seen about half of the lifetime of AI. AI started as a field in 1956. Okay, and so it's not like an ancient field like math or something. So one of the interesting things in the beginning, people were very, very worried about having humans in the loop, because that is a way of admitting that the system doesn't do anything. The system is not actually powerful enough. It required the humans as a crutch. Okay, so this is like computer-human systems where human does all the heavy lifting and the computer provides a nice bitmap screen. Okay. And that was the worry. And to some extent, that's not an empty worry, because there have been many cases like that. How many of you know that the original mechanical Turk was this guy? Right? A mechanical Turk was this little Turk guy who was essentially sitting in this contraption, and he would be taken from place to place, and this is the original alpha chess. It would win on chess games, right? Except this guy was doing the chess moves. Okay, this sort of subterfuge is always there. I mean, it's there even now. And whenever you're in a startup fever, then if AI is not doing enough, then the employees will do it for them, for the AI, so that you get the money. Okay. But this was a big worry, and so people were very worried about that direction. And it doesn't help that the current version, which is, this, right? Sophia. How many of you love Sophia, the robot, the project? Not in a human sense, but the project. Okay, good. I hate it. I think it's total prestidigitation. Basically, they have nothing to back up what they were trying to show there, and it just feeds into people's narrative of having seen Ex Machinas and the various, Hollywood movies. As a nice sideshow, it is okay, but actually now Sophia takes part in AI conferences and discusses ethics. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that sort of, I guess this is too new, but this sort of direction that maybe having humans in the loop makes us take humans as a crutch. And so I'll do it myself. Okay, I mean, how many of you, when you have to do something in a team, you think even a better idea is I'll do it all myself. Then I don't have to deal with these bozos. Okay, and so that way they'll know for sure, that I did it all, and I didn't have to depend on somebody else. So that was one way of thinking about it. I think there's no way of doing this, but there's not much work in. So AI has obviously connections from cognitive psychology, and of course some from neuroscience, but certainly from cognitive psychology originally, where they are trying to understand how humans do things, but mostly so that they can make the computers do those things, either the same way humans do it, or in different ways. But not as much in terms of understanding how humans work with each other and trying to make computer systems work with humans using those two systems. There is in some areas, of course, human-computer interaction was one, but probably a related field is human factors in general, and ergonomics, and human factors and ergonomics, where they think about how humans get along with technology and how to design it in such a way that the technology and the human together would be better than the sum of the parts, as against being worse than the sum of the parts. And it's not surprising that you can actually come up with technology that is worse than the sum of the parts. In fact, one of the nice things that you can see if you look at any of the airplane disasters would be, first of all, who would design that cockpit, right? Essentially, it's not Steve Jobs designing a cockpit, right? There's like a million of these things, and the question, of course, is how much are they able to help the humans get a real sense of what is outside, what's actually happening outside. Every once in a while, when there's like a big accident, they will go in and say, these human factors issues were the reason why, in fact, this accident happened. And then you hope everything else is fine after the next accident. So there are areas which looked at it, but mostly within AI, no. Okay, so the other thing that I kind of think about is this, AI is supposed to be about automating tasks that supposedly require intelligence. If humans do it, you think they require intelligence. There's a bunch of different kinds of intelligences, and one interesting thing to note is emotional and the social intelligence are intelligences with names. Typically, we kind of sneak around, especially if you're a good engineering student. Emotional intelligence. You never get jobs because of that. You get jobs because of your Python intelligence, C++ intelligence, right? But then the reality is after you get the job, you can keep it if you have some social intelligence and some emotional intelligence. Otherwise, you will again be doing one more interview with Python and C++. Right? Right? So the fact is that we needed these really to actually work with each other. Very much so. We read each other's emotions. Okay? You kind of figure out whether they're bored to death, whether they are scared of you, whether they are interested in continuing this conversation, whether they want to run away, all this stuff. And on top of it, you also essentially think in terms of how do you strategize with other people. Okay? But not much really got done on these aspects. Certainly, original AI work was all in cognitive reasoning tasks. AlphaGo notwithstanding, we were able to solve chess back in 90s. Solve chess basically means you could do better than humans, the best humans. Okay? And then of course the perception and manipulation, we came to it much later, more recently right now. That's the stuff that we did really well. Okay? But not much really on these, and those two aspects actually wind up requiring essentially humans working in teams require those kinds of intelligence. And if a machine wants to take the place of a human in a team, it needs to have that intelligence. Okay, again, it's a very high level point, but it's worthwhile noticing that we will talk about things like aspects of social intelligence and aspects of emotional intelligence and how to automate them. Okay. In fact, one thing that I kind of like is there is this theory in evolution that humans have way too big a brain in the tree that we live in, the evolutionary tree. Okay. And it's not explained by anything that we had to do really. I mean, in fact, one big thing is probably we are running away from the tigers and lions, right? But you don't need huge big brain to run away from tigers and lions. There is this whole argument that we needed the brains to deal with each other. It's this, tigers don't, whatever your childhood stories told you, it's still arguable that lions and tigers can actually make a plan and execute it. They are mostly reactive. Okay, there have been some potential places where people have shown that animals can do slightly longer term reasoning and so on. But mostly, they see something, they're hungry, they see something like, like looks juicy and eatable, they don't know. Okay, otherwise they just take something. So the question is that you did not have to have the kind of brain you have to actually just deal with if you are a single agent on African savanna. You needed the brain that you have essentially because you had other agents just like you, and those are painful to you. And you had to work with them, cooperate with them, compete with them, strategize with them, manipulate them. That's where you use most of the power. Again, this is like a small digression from this course, but it's worthwhile realizing that social intelligence that we take for granted, nobody teaches you this. In fact, one of the interesting things is that in terms of people getting various kinds of intelligence in their own lifetimes, kids get this fast, then this, and maybe this later. I think in terms of, you don't have kids playing chess in their crib. They're mostly trying to take everything and putting it in their mouth. And Deep Blue, which won chess, didn't know what a pawn is. And if a pawn came and beat it, it wouldn't know. Okay, the kid will know that this thing looks like eatable. Everything looks like eatable. But in general, they went with the perception and manipulation aspects first. Then they have emotional intelligence because their only hope is to manipulate the parents. Parents are the effectors and effectors, right? And the evolution had to play games with us such that we will think kids are cute. We will think that if they really like this, they're laughing. And if they do some gobbledygook, that they're actually saying very important stuff, including your name, as part of that sentence. And so it works. And if it didn't work, then those people who didn't feel that way, didn't have kids, or they had kids who just sort of withered away. And evolution has a beautiful way of making sure that what it wants will happen. Right? So it's kind of useful to know that kids get emotional and social intelligence way before they learn how to play chess. And in fact, there is actually a way of thinking about people on the autism spectrum. And that to some extent what they are missing are what they fall a little low on are these two. In fact, the word savant essentially was used to say these are people who could actually be extremely good at chess, extremely good at Go, but they can't read people's faces. The thing that you do without thinking. Okay, we tend to take things that we can do in our life by about grade school time as easy stuff. The stuff for which you need to get a grade from the ASU, that's the hard stuff. But that's not necessarily the case. That's just the way it happened for you. For the computers, actually, it's happening the opposite way to some extent. Right? We figured out how to do chess way before we figured out how to see the world. And I'm not completely sure that we have figured out emotional and social intelligence. Okay. So that's sort of a useful thing to keep in mind. And so again, this one is just to say that you do actually have interactions with other humans. Exactly. Interaction with other humans is really a very important piece of intelligence. And that's why we needed the brain we have. At least there are reasons to believe that. And so, if AI systems do that, now you can't keep saying you're taking it other humans as a crutch. It actually expands the scope. Anybody can stay by themselves in the middle of woods. Henry David Thoreau showed you. That's no fun. Then you have to come out, write a book so that all of us can read it. Right? It's like, if a tree falls in the, if you do a great, hole in the, in the middle of the forest, what are you going to tell it? There should be people. We are wired that, and that winds up being important. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that like an expert in chess cannot tell like the face of a person because they increase their cognitive abilities or their cognitive abilities so much, not their emotional or anything like that. Would you say that we as humans have the capacity to be able to increase all of these equally? Like the experts
No, again,
all of these that help?
All I was saying is what we call intelligence includes all of these. What we call intelligence includes all of these. Although most people in the most day-to-day usage tend to focus on the cognitive and reasoning tasks. Okay, I mean the GRE logic section, for example, there used to be one like that. That would be a reasoning section. Okay, they won't show a person's face and say, is the person angry or happy? What's the point? It's what's the point for you, because you know it. If you did not know it, you won't be old enough to take GRE, because you would be beaten in your grade school by the other kids who basically felt you can't read their faces. So we are just evolutionarily, we are constrained to do those things very well. Machines are actually pretty bad, and they are better now. So it's just a question of, if you are, all of them are at the same time, it's one thing. But if you're talking about the progress being made in understanding how to get those capabilities, I think it's still useful to say that sort of AI systems went in sort of the opposite direction. That's all I'm saying. Yes?
So you had a question about why AI systems didn't keep humans in the loop earlier, and sometimes when you restrict the behavior of these systems to not go against your wishes, like since you design and program these systems, right? So whatever they do is going to be likable, but doesn't necessarily have to please you. I mean, as long as you restrict that you're always going to be working on good terms.
So I'm not completely sure I understand what.
That's a very naive question. Like,
it's okay. I mean, I don't understand the gist of your question.
No, I mean, when you restrict the behavior of these systems, like since you design and program these systems, right? You already you can have them not go against your wishes anytime when they're functioning.
Except first of all, that's not at all obvious. Right? I mean, basically, I made fun of this human compatible AI before about how to design AI systems that won't kill us, but there is actually technical problems there. Okay, so how many of you know? I mean, King Midas. I mean, every culture has a version of King Midas. Okay, so this guy essentially anything he touches will become gold. This is what he asked for. Okay, but he didn't quite understand the ramifications of that. Okay, so it's actually not obvious at all that you know exactly what is desirable behavior and can specify it to machines. It's connected to human AI, but it's also connected to AI and safety. That's a whole entire issue of how do you provide specifications to AI systems such that they won't be unsafe. I mean, there is a line between being completely useless versus you should be useful but be safe. Okay, again, it helps if you have kids, which you don't, you are kids yourself. But if you have kids and if you ask your parents, at certain points of time, the parents in general will feel, if only we can control, tell the kid what the desirable behaviors are and make sure that they do exactly that and nothing more. And if you monitor them all the time, good stuff will happen. But that's not the way things work. In fact, having the autonomy, having the ability to essentially do what you want and still be constrained by things that you have learned, that you have decided to follow, these winds up being much more important. But we are kind of jumping a little bit more into philosophical issues. But I would agree. I would say this though: it's not at all easy to specify good behavior to a machine. Okay, because for everything there is an exception, and exceptions have exceptions, and so on, and so it becomes very hard.
The only argument is you engineer the capability of that system, right? So you have entire control over what the system can do.
So have you seen, do you think that any systems failed, engineered systems failed in the world until now?
Like the definition of fail as in
like Challenger fell off the earth and fell off the space, right? And every once in a while, trains go into accidents, cars go into accidents. And why did those happen? Is it because the guy or girl designing it didn't have engineering background and didn't know exactly what to say? It's partly because they didn't anticipate exactly what. And so what I'm trying to tell you is, you make it sound too easy that somehow you can provide desirable behavior for a program where the desirable behavior is you should never give a number that is negative. Yeah, I can do that. Okay, for an assistant, how do you tell an assistant, who's trying to help you in a task, what are doable and what are not doable? And in fact, for many, many things, we wind up having exception clauses. Okay, but we can get back to this later. Any other question? Yes.
So with the current state of biotechnology, would introducing any machines like maybe nanobots or a Neuralink or something inside our own biochemical or neurological systems, would that be considered like an alternate approach, alternate
Yeah.
rate of
No,
processing?
I think I will mention Neuralink. I'll mention Neuralink. I'll mention every possible buzzword.
My
No.
question is that a different way of approaching the same topic? Or
So there is a problem and there are solutions. I don't own the solution. I'm telling you about the problem and you think about the solution. So certainly Neuralink is a solution. It's a sort of depressing solution for me, but it's a solution. But it's nowhere closer to reality than anything else that we are talking about. Okay? Neuralink is actually quite far from. There are parts of it that I will talk to you a little bit about, the brain-computer interfaces to actually sense what the humans are, their days, even some of their thoughts, quote unquote, at the back of it, that we are able to do now. But the symbolic stuff that we do, it's not yet. Yes.
And it's not like humans are good at making decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even having a big part of brain dedicated to that stuff will still kind of mess up.
Yes, but the machines are much worse. Right? Honestly, it's not like humans are good at chess. And I say it like a person who hates chess because he can't play it. Right? And yet, we still figure out how to make the machines win over humans that are to check valid chess.
But from the examples of the secretary open up the chat box, it seems like they felt it's better off talking to that machine.
Those are all these very interesting ethical questions. That is a good point. So in fact, any human aware AI systems will be used beyond what you expected their usage to be by the users. And who is responsible for it? Who is ethically responsible for it? That's a very interesting question. Okay? Again, that's why I'm saying that it's not just, it is certainly an AI course, but it's also a human factors, human computer factors, and then there are also aspects of ethical issues. That, when you write like computer science, I'm sure that undergrads here have to take like ethics in computer science. There is no not saying, let's not do that stuff. But really, AI is the ultimate dual-use technology. Right? Anything with intelligence can be used both for good and for bad. Used for intended purposes, unintended purposes. And so ethical issues become even bigger. But of course, we have started studying them only now. So it's like much more. Any other questions? Yes?
Go back to the previous slide.
This one?
The human growth and
Yeah.
So the human growth is beginning from perception to emotion to social intelligence. And so the AI systems are built